Nobody's listening, right? Hi, Andy.
Hello.
Is anybody listening?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, let's jump in here. This one's from Spotify and it says, "Oh my gosh. I love that you guys make me giggle from deep in my belly. Now I need an affogato. Also never had one and think about how great it probably tastes when I see one online now."
Oh, good.
Right. And then let me jump on over to iTunes real quick. Highly recommend to astronauts and other somebodies.
Oh, good.
Totally listening. Thanks to St. Monica, I was treated to a thorough discussion of bodily fluids in space, have laughed and raged with Elizabeth about the church and patriarchy of it all, and gotten excited about seasoning skillets and discussing messes with plumbers with Andy. I'm so deep in the archives, I basically don't do anything else. Just discovered One Sure Thing because of the backlog diving and can't wait to get started.
Oh, that's so nice.
Nice
I'm getting
summary of that.
started on season 2 of The One Sure Thing, which I'm very excited about.
Oh, nice.
That's
your podcast about death and dying.
That's correct.
Yes.
And there's a full season 1 out. Season 2 is I'm gonna take my time making it because I want to make it real good.
Real deathy.
Real deathy. Get real into it. So first of all, I always forget to do this. We have reached 400 patrons.
Oh,
It's a big milestone. We know there are 500 of y'all out there who want a whole bonus episode every month, who want to come play Mario Kart with us, which is going to happen in the next 2 weeks. If you are a patron, keep your eyes peeled for the date drop on that. And there are 100 slots left to get the MP3 of our intro song that Andy made. And Andy finds this very funny because he thinks
I find it hilarious
it's not an incentive.
Yeah, that you think this is any sort of incentive.
Well, anyway, I would want it. So, there
Great.
you have it. So big news.
Yeah.
Where are we right now?
We're on the couch.
The Plaid Couch has arrived. For any new listeners, this has been an ongoing conversation, debate, cause for potential divorce proceedings at one point.
Yeah.
This goddamn couch. And I hate to disparage it as I sit on it.
Yeah, why would you say that?
Well, it took months to arrive, as it does. And then when it was ready to arrive, there was this massive snowstorm and it couldn't get here. And the snow had to melt. It was such a to-do. And my shout out to my sister, Anna Marie,
shout out,
of Anthology Interiors, who made this dream happen. But we are sitting on the plaid couch of my dreams in our cabin. It was a huge argument because plaid couches are intense.
Controversial.
It was a huge investment. The most we've ever spent on a piece of furniture by far. This is Ralph Lauren.
Oh, God.
Fabric.
Well, I don't even have to talk about this part.
Deer
This
Path Trail.
This part makes me, I put all that behind me.
I know. The fabric is beautiful. I think you can go to our Instagram.com/nobody's listening right if you want to see us on this couch.
Go to YouTube and check it out too if you want to really see it.
Yeah. And I'm going to say, I don't even think I've taken pictures and stuff. It doesn't do it total justice. There's like a little red in here that doesn't seem to come through in the pictures. Oh. But I love it. And damn it if it's not the most comfortable couch I have ever experienced in my life.
It is very comfortable.
I feel like there's a but.
No, there's no but. It's one of those things. It's like once the thing finally comes, it was so exciting. I mean, I came in here by myself yesterday or 2 days ago and got to experience by myself. You'd already seen it. And I was like, wow. And I just laid down and enjoyed it. And it is so comfortable. But now it's this reality. And you kind of snapped me out of it by bringing up the cost of it again. I don't ever want to think about the cost of it again.
Yeah.
She's a fancy lady, this couch.
She's a handsome gal.
She's a handsome gal.
And I actually, so yesterday we came up to the cabin with kids. We were doing mostly just kind of getting cabin shit together and ready.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh, we're up at the we're still in the process of getting stuff together and organized. And then in the afternoon, we gave the kids some screen time, and I laid down on this couch to read my magazine, and you were on your iPad.
Yeah.
And I just fell asleep, and I have not done that on a couch in so long.
Really?
No.
And we were both laying out on it, I might mention.
Which is so nice. Our whole family fits on this couch. Now, for reference, our couch at home is like very close to the TV, and it's like perpendicular to the TV. So
we don't ever get to look at the TV straight.
And I hate the couch we have at home. I got duped by one of those, I'm not going to say which company, but like the couch company that's like, we cut out the middleman and we're an internet company and we're cool. And I ordered it, and you can tell it's cheap. It's too low. It's not that comfortable. And you have to, in our house, all of us don't really fit on it.
No.
Comfortably.
No.
So anyway, this is a joy.
This is a dream come true.
And I hope this whole episode doesn't just sound like us talking about all this great stuff, but I'm very appreciative of all of it. And I will say another dream come true has been, do you think I'm going to say my long marriage to you? You're looking at me like I'm about to say something about you.
I just hope it's good. It's not about me?
It's not about you, but it is something you brought into my life.
Oh, great.
The ice machine.
Oh, yeah.
Tell our listeners what that is.
It's like a Pebble Ice, like Sonic Ice machine.
Oh, my God.
They advertise them as portable. They're nothing but portable.
They're
pretty big.
And in fact, in the instructions, it's like, if this machine has been tilted more than 45 degrees in transit, which, like, of course it's been upside down all over the place. Like, it must sit in the place it is for many hours, or else you're going to...
That's just, that's refrigeration talk. You get any refrigerator, a little one, a big one, same situation.
Because there's
you got to let it settle for like 24 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, this ice is delightful. You scoop it out. It's little nuggets of ice that are kind of get soft and crunchy. Andy's drinking his right now. So I have to say, everything seems grand.
And you know what? The crazy thing is, I was thinking, I gave this ice machine to you was it for a birthday?
Yeah.
Something like that. And it wouldn't fit in our kitchen at our house, and it just looked ridiculous. Here, it looks somewhat ridiculous, but not that ridiculous. And I was like, will it be weird to have it up here? Because we aren't here every day. But it is going to be the perfect treat whenever we're up here. And It's so easy to use.
It's great.
It is. It really is a nice little touch, if you will.
It is. Okay, so let's get into some of the, if those are the pros, let's get into a little con.
What's a little con?
Okay. Last night was the first night sleeping in this house.
Yeah.
We have a little back studio that we've been staying in while this house has been worked on. So we bought this home from a family who owned it since, like, they built it in the 60s, I think.
Yeah, Diamond Joe, something like that.
It's Diamond Joe, yes. And Diamond Joe, like, I've had some weird feelings sometimes about Diamond Joe. So we know he had passed away. This was like very much his house. And in the little back house we were in, actually, there was like a full-on poker table covered in cobwebs.
Sure.
I feel like I have a pretty good sense of who Diamond Joe is. Like, he liked to party.
Like to cook.
These people were very stylish. He liked to barbecue. They built the little back studio, in fact, so that he could barbecue in that home, which is why when you go in, it was like covered, and that was a very gross place when we first started up. Mm-hmm. So there are also like decks of cards everywhere. When we bought this place, it was pretty gross, like shag carpeting from the 60s and just a film on everything. But you could tell it was stylish. Even like I was looking at the light fixtures outside. I'm like, I bet Diamond Joe's wife, Mrs. Diamond Joe, I can imagine her picking those out and being like,
oh, that's sweet. I never
these
thought of that.
These are cool. And what I've been doing with our things in this cabin. Like, I want to put my touch on it. And they had great style.
Okay.
Well, Diamond Joe, I assume he was a smoker.
I have no idea where you're going with this. I'm worried.
Well, so we've talked about when we stay in the back house, like sometimes you get little creepy vibes, but nothing crazy. I obviously thought our neighbor was going to come kill us at one point, but
Yeah.
all in all, nothing major. Well, last night, what I didn't tell you was I was here last week and while the couch was being delivered and stuff, and all the workers had left. There was no one around. There was no one in any of the houses around me. And I smelled cigarette smoke, like really strong, right outside our front door. And I was walking around and I instantly thought, I bet this is Diamond Joe here.
Smoking?
Yeah.
Going to the ghost convenience store to buy ghost cigarettes?
Yeah.
You know, I believe in ghosts.
I don't know that, but I know you've seen them. But I feel like sometimes you're like, I've seen them, but I don't know if I believe in them. I've never seen a ghost ever. But I had an experience last night and I wanted to ask you, I didn't know what your experience was. So we're sleeping on a mattress on the floor in the bedroom that is ours.
Yeah.
First night here.
Yeah.
This has never happened to me before. I had a dream that I was sleeping on that mattress. Okay.
Okay.
And I heard furniture being dragged around in this room we're in, which is above our room.
Uh-huh.
And I knew it was Diamond Joe. And I was scared. And I went upstairs and it was very real. This whole dream was very real. Like I look over at you, you're asleep. I debate whether I'm saying anything to you or not about...
This is in the dream?
Yes.
Okay.
I come up the stairs. It all felt very real though.
Okay.
And I come into this very room we're in.
Uh-huh.
And Diamond Joe has taken all of the chairs and stools and everything and made a circle.
Oh, it just got really creeped out.
And he's sitting in one of the chairs as a young guy. I was surprised. And he didn't look exactly the way I thought Diamond Joe would look, but he was clear as day. Like I could probably have an FBI person do like one of those sketches of him, like, and handsome and seemed very kind. Mm-hmm. And I said, Diamond Joe, and he smiled. And then I said, look, we love you and like wish you well. And then this is what's never happened to me before. I go, and I woke up. And like I woke myself up, and what I wanted to ask you was, I'm 99% sure I was saying those words out loud, like I was talking in my sleep. But I snapped out of it, and I woke up, and then I was like, oh my God, that was just a dream, thank God. But also like, but then I felt kind of more at peace in a weird way. But anyway, that was my experience.
I'm trying to take all this with a grain of salt because it was a dream.
Yeah.
If you said that this was a vision you had and you thought was a ghost, I think then I'd be really freaked out but when you were telling the chairs in the circle thing, I got really spooked.
But that was in the dream. I mean, obviously if I walked up here and the chairs were all in a circle, that would be very creepy.
Yeah. Well, it's weird that you had this experience because I was going to say to you,
oh boy,
I'm very relieved. I feel no vibes like that in here. And so I came up here by myself a night before you. I did stay in the back house. I bumped into our neighbor, I think the one that you thought might kill you at one point.
Yeah, very nice man.
Love that guy. He, quick side note, had this fun little project going on where there's this shed on his property that he's never been able to get into.
Oh.
And I was like, dude, let me know when you get into it.
Yeah.
Because it was like, what's going to be in here?
Right.
So I was really invested in this. It turns out it was just like what you would think would be in a shed.
Old
ladders
tools
and tools and stuff. There were a bunch of Tupperwares that he still needs to go through. So maybe there'll be some treasure, but there was no body or treasure or who knows. But he said to me,
oh boy,
I almost made the joke of there being a dead body in the shed. So much so that I caught myself, but he knew what joke I was making.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I said, I'm sorry, I was going to make a bad joke. And he goes, no, it's fine. And he goes,
oh boy.
Yeah. If you do see a ghost, if there is a ghost, you just got to ask it what it wants.
Oh.
And so he said that to me, and I
So
was like,
simple.
And I was like, oh, that's nice. And then I literally was like, all right, I'll see ya. I'm going to go put these bunk beds together. But then I was like, is that some sort of creepy foreshadowing, but also helpful? But I had that in the back of my mind. I'm so spooked by ghosts. I've always been a little worried that once we finally slept in this place, and then I was cold last night, but I was like, there's no vibes like that at all in here. And I was like, I could stay here by myself.
Yeah. So I feel like whatever vibes I had, I think that dream and experience kind of put it to rest.
Let's just get on the same page. If we do see Diamond Joe or any of that crew.
Yeah.
That I think were very nice. We can ask if they need anything.
Yeah.
But say but we kind of would appreciate it if you moved on.
Yeah.
I think you can do that too.
Mm-hmm.
And also you talked about coming up with your girlfriends and doing some sagey,
I'd
stuff.
love to sage.
That'd be good too. But in general, I wish you wouldn't have told me about that dream, but it is just a dream. I think we're okay.
Do you genuinely wish I hadn't told you about that?
No, I wish you hadn't had the dream.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
You didn't hear me sleep talking?
No.
Okay.
Did you sleep okay last night?
No. No.
Were you cold?
Yeah, I got cold.
Okay. I was trying to get body warmth from you a lot last night.
Were you?
Yeah.
I didn't notice that.
We could have teamed up a little better than we did.
I did notice you went up and got the blanket and came over and just put it on your side. And
oh, yeah.
it's like, what?
I put my socks on in the middle of the night.
Yeah, it gets chilly. We're up in the mountains. It's cold up here.
Jeez. Okay.
So, I'm such an idiot. The Patreon is patreon.com/nobody's listening right. I didn't even say what the link is.
That's okay.
I'm so bad at this.
You're fine.
Okay. One quick thing. I don't think that you saw this message because it was not checked in our Instagram.
Ooh, while you pull that up, I do want to say that I appreciate everyone that sent me some articles about space sex. And it's funny that it's in the air right now.
Yeah.
We literally had not seen anything. We talked about space sex last week. Then there was a Gizmodo link. Then a couple people there was a Telegraph link.
Space sex could pose a risk to pregnancy.
It's in the air right now. So it's kind of wild.
25th of April, 2023. So truly just days after our conversation.
And the Gizmodo one was the day after we saw. We're like, what?
What is that? Is that that thing of when you're thinking about red, then just all of the red colors pop out at you. Or if you're looking for Volkswagens, all the cars you see on the road are Volkswagen.
It's twofold. I think that I'm really in tune to the culture. So I must have been feeling it swirling.
Uh-huh.
And then once it's
space.
Yeah, exactly.
Sex, space.
Once it's on your radar though, yeah, you see it.
Okay, well, I don't know if you saw this.
Please.
This is from somebody named Beth. Regarding special accommodations for women in space, the tampon story, while funny, isn't in the same hilarious realm as men considering the toilet design on the space shuttle prior to Sally Ride becoming the first American woman in space. According to a book titled The New Guys, Men engineers are on record for expressing concern about, quote, large amounts of mucus produced by women clogging the toilet device. Here's the headline of this, Andy.
Okay.
NASA aerospace engineer here, by the way, listening in from NASA's Space Center.
What?
Yeah.
No. Read that to me again.
NASA aerospace engineer here, by the way.
Are you kidding me? There is a real NASA engineer listening?
Yes.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Isn't that cool?
It's more than cool. It's the best thing ever.
It's so great.
And are they the one that sent that?
Yeah.
And explain that.
There's a book called The New Guys, and it says men engineers. So this is before the first American women
They
went
were
to space,
worried once they were like, women are
about
going.
the large amounts of mucus produced by women clogging the toilet device. Now,
Is that a thing?
I don't know. I'm like, wow, we have a long ways to go, but have we come a long way in terms of people knowing about women's bodies? Like, did men think women produced like an insane amount of mucus vaginally? Like, I'm so confused by what that means.
Maybe it's like
Mucus? Is that the period that they're referring to?
again, we don't have to go too into this, but maybe it's just like there were two systems on the space shuttle when it came to evacuating, right? There was the poop system and the pee system.
Mm-hmm.
The pee system, like pretty straightforward liquid only system when they designed it. And then they're like, oh, there might be some stuff that's a little out of bounds of just liquid.
Ew.
And we designed this just for liquid, right?
Gross.
But I think that's probably the concern.
Okay.
But it sounds like they've all dialed that in by now.
Also, I just want to say, do you know what's going on in Florida?
With SpaceX?
That there's a bill that passed or is passing. I mean, DeSantis is out of his fucking mind that girls can't talk about their periods in school anymore.
I don't even want to give him any what is it, FaceTime, or it's
precious
just,
airtime.
It's this dumb playbook that unfortunately is working for him.
Yeah.
It's just absurd. It's just absurd.
Can I quickly say one thing? I don't even know how much. I don't have like the receipts for all of this,
Sure.
but I remember when like his book banning began, that you have to like follow the money trail, and that he has relatives in Texas who is either relatives of his or people who are very connected to relatives of his who own a book publishing, like a textbook publishing company. And so he's banning all of these books, claiming that they're like, you know, I don't know, sexualizing or whatever.
Yeah.
Basically, every book is banned.
Yeah.
Except for the books that this one printer in Texas makes.
Right.
So they now have the contract to print all of Florida's books. Well, guess what? There is like a pipeline. So they're going to make all this money now. I don't know what the details are, but there's a pipeline of money, and I guarantee DeSantis is financially profiting from this and that's far more important to him than him sincerely thinking, you know, this math book is corrupting this kid.
No,
or whatever.
it's a double win for him, right?
Yeah.
One, he's getting
he
that
stokes
money,
fear,
and two, he's stoking fear and getting in the
ignorance
headlines
and hate. Yeah,
Like,
he's horrible.
It's a double, you know. It's a smart play by him. Kudos to you, you asshole.
Yes,
But,
yeah.
yeah, it's so dumb. The whole book banning thing, I mean,
Tough, yeah.
is kind of crazy too. And like, do kids even care? Like,
well, haven't we been here? No, kids don't care because they don't understand.
but they're not even reading as much as they used to.
Okay, that's a good point. Like does it
oh,
even
you're
matter?
taking this one book out of the library. Like, I could give a
I've
shit.
never even been to the library.
Yeah.
No. Kids probably don't care and aren't going to notice, but it is fascism. Like it does matter because this is one of the many steps he's implementing in making Florida a fascist state. It's crazy, literally.
It's some fun stuff to do down there, though. great memories I had as a kid down there.
Oh my God, me too. We used to go to Destin
Yeah.
every spring break.
We were a Sarasota family.
Where is Sarasota?
I don't know.
Okay.
Wait, real quick. Name all the places in Florida you've been to, and then I'll do mine.
Okay. Orlando. I mean, I spent a lot of time in Orlando, and it was like a little pocket of Orlando called...
Disney World.
No, it was... Oh man, what was this little area called where my grandmother lived? You know, it's funny. I've mentioned it over the years, and people from Orlando don't even seem to know it.
Where's space in Orlando? Cape Canaveral?
Canaveral. I've been to Epcot many times, Disney.
That's all Orlando.
Destin.
So Orlando, Destin.
Tallahassee. Is that in Florida?
So I think where Limp Bizkit was born, but...
That makes all sorts of sense.
I don't think you've been to Tallahassee. I don't know why. I just don't.
Wait, I have family somewhere in Florida, and I feel bad that I'm not remembering.
Okay, you've been to Destin and Orlando.
Okay.
I've been to...
You clearly want to name all the places in Florida you've been.
I've got Sarasota.
Yes.
I've got St. Augustine, very old, maybe the oldest town in America, actually. And those are the only two I remember. But there's another one, but those are the only two I remember.
Did Sarasota, because
maybe Fort Lauderdale, actually.
The Gulf side has those white sand beaches, beautiful. Like the water is like turquoise. I mean, that's where Destin was. Mm-hmm. That's why when I got out to California beaches, not to shame, I mean, I love our state, but I'm not a huge fan of California beaches because I thought all beaches were these like soft white sand, beautiful, glorious beaches of Destin.
And they're not.
You know, they call it the Redneck Riviera.
I don't think you can say that anymore.
I just did.
Of that side of the Florida?
Yes, but
there's some great spots in Georgia too. There, there's some classic vacationing spots in there that are awesome, right?
Yes, and so every spring break we would drive down. And also, a lot of St. Louis would. It was like this caravan down.
Yeah, it was.
It was a spot to go, and it was like all these. Everyone in St. Louis would go during spring break to Destin, Florida, and my mom. We would get a condo there at this like tennis resort, and
wow.
Well, my dad, as we know, played tennis so much he played it to death. And so my mom would get, usually the Oscars were around then, and she would have an Oscar party, and she would get a chocolate chip cookie cake, and she would have Destin is our destiny written on it. And we would have so much fun, but we would have a lot of friends around because it was like all of these people.
That's great that you have. Yeah, we never had that experience. That's cool.
I got fingered for the first time in Destin. On the sand. Anyway, by a neighbor in St. Louis.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I don't want to name names or anything, but yes.
Oh, no, name them, actually. Name them.
No.
This was an appropriate
age. Yeah,
okay.
I was
not
a teenager, you know.
And they were
a teenager.
Okay. You just say neighbor and it doesn't sound right. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, he was
Okay. That's fun. Or was it? I don't know. Was it fun?
No. You know why? We were on the beach.
Yeah.
Sand.
Terrible,
honestly.
I've had beach experiences. Yeah, they're not good.
Not good. But there is something kind of, you know, speaking of space sex is in the air when you're on spring break as a teenager with all these other teenagers, and you kind of had more freedom to go off and whatever. So anyway, yeah, I love Destin though. And I always think about, like mozzarella sticks and.
I bet you do, freak.
Okay. Anyway, so you know what? I have a lot of love for Florida, and Orlando is a very, very special place in my heart. Particularly, like my grandmother's home was near this like pond, and
Oh, the memories of that pond.
one time a gator was in it, and it was no, this is true.
Hey, no one's doubting a gator.
And
in
also,
Florida.
the area she lived, Lancaster Park, is the name of this area.
Okay.
And she lived on like Lancaster Lane, and it was cobblestone streets.
Okay.
And there was this pond, and there were weeping willows all over. I mean, it was very like, it felt very throwback South. And I can still hear the like hum of the insects, and
No, you can't.
yeah.
Hey, what were the? Speaking of ponds, and we're not done with Florida.
I'm not done. I have one more thing to say.
Oh, great.
One time, there was a huge tortoise that got out of the pond and like took a tour of the town or this little area. And I mean, I would go and have lunch, and then I'd go back to it, and it had moved like 3 feet, you know? And I spent like a whole week with this tortoise as a kid.
That's a cute memory. Now that's
going
a memory.
back, and
Yeah.
you prefer that to the other one.
Just pond. Yeah.
And then also there were neighbors there. You know, as a mom, I look back on this and I'm like,
Well, we all know what happens with neighbors with you.
no, there was this neighboring family, and they were very Christian. And I think because of that, like, I guarantee you the mom had many conversations with her husband, like, well, we should have more grace in our hearts because their grandmother has Lou Gehrig's disease. Like, you know, Baba was in a wheelchair and had around the clock care. And I think that they were more generous of spirit probably because of that. But when I would get there, I would call them because they had 2 girls who were like around my age.
Oh, okay.
And then they also had a baby, and I still remember their names. And I actually looked them up somewhat recently, and I can't find them. But I think that now being a mom, I think she got so sick of having me, and I feel like I ate them out of house and home. Like I just go over to their house and hang out 24/7, and my mom was dealing with her mom, and like I'm sure they got very, very sick of me. And I think towards the end of our run there, and also when I started becoming a teenager, and I think maybe
Your neighbor priorities shifted.
like I was starting to corrupt
You were
the
looking
girls
for
a little bit.
a different thing in neighbors in your teen years.
But I think they put up some boundaries, and I wasn't allowed to come over and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
What? Quick side note with ponds, and then back to Florida. What is? Remember in middle school, you and me, there was a pond at school, and we would do like science stuff. And there was
yeah,
what are those things
vaguely.
called? Cat something? Cat? They're like tall plants that grow in ponds.
Tails.
Cattails.
Yeah.
Just wanted to remember what a cattail was. My best memory of going to Florida. Did you guys drive?
Oh, yes.
Great. Love the drive. It's like a 2-day drive, right? Or you spend a night, maybe one place on the way down to Florida.
And also, by the way, there's like on that drive to Florida, it's a 2-day drive. You stay overnight in Memphis or somewhere.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And there are motels on that drive that were the places where everyone lost their baby blanket or lovey or whatever was important to them.
What?
And that every year there was like a family that would be calling it and being like, can you please see if you can find this so we can pick it up on our way back?
Oh, that's cute. That's very cute. I like that.
Okay.
Not where I thought you were going. I love those hotels. That was an era of where like the motel was transitioning into the hotel. But do you remember Holiday Inns? They had something called a Holidome, and they were Holiday Inns that had like a big indoor play
Pool.
area with a pool. Maybe there was mini golf. There was an arcade. And like when we got to stay at one of those, ooh, that was
So
incredible.
fun.
But then also, do you remember, and please, one of our Florida listeners, let us know if this still exists, the stores, I would call them like highway convenience stores called Stuckey's. It's a chain of
that's vaguely
stores,
familiar.
and it was like just this awesome spot that you would stop for snacks and drinks and whatnot. But they had them all along that drive from Florida, and they had a very iconic shaped building, almost like a Pizza Hut sort of, but bigger. But I just remember going to Stuckey's was like the best because you get your, you get like a little treat. You get your candy, a soda.
Yes, I also remember. So the Cotizas, my best friend Kendall's family.
Yeah.
And my parents were really close, and they would usually stay at the same place we did, Hidden Dunes. Sometimes I would get to drive down with them a few days early, and they had a minivan.
Sick.
And I know last week I was saying we didn't have a minivan. My mom drove a gold BMW, but that ride in their minivan, they had it so decked out. They had like the center console that was like the snack station. And it was, I've talked about this before, how like my mom was always dieting. It's really messed me up. And they had all of this junk food all the time. They had Twizzlers, they had Entenmann's, they had whatever. So they were like my, what's that called? Supplier. They were like my dealer of this stuff. Yeah. So I remember going on the road trip also meant like endless Doritos and sprinkles and all this stuff I could never have.
It's the best.
And it was fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, those were good times. I also have a memory of, I got the most sunburned I've ever gotten in my life. Actually, I had gone down with the Cotizas. I'm pretty sure I got sun poisoning. Mm-hmm. Like vomiting from it. So sick.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty common when you get over that threshold. Yes. Bad news.
Horrible.
Yeah.
What is it about vacations? I mean, I'm sure one of our many neuroscientists who listen to this podcast could tell us. Like, so many of my childhood memories are vacation specific. Whereas you would think because 90% of my time was spent at my home, I have so few like really clear, vivid memories at home.
Yeah.
But I remember these things on vacation so clearly.
It's because they're novel, right? Like, I think that's the thing. It's like, and we're going to go make some memories because we're going to do something that is out of our daily routine. This is, if you look at the series of your life, there's a lot of same for a little bit, and then boop, wait, for 1 week you did this, and then a lot of same, and boop. I think that's probably it when it comes to that file system, right? It's easier when you're color coding everything. You see like tons of blue for just life and school, and then the vacation section's smaller, so it's probably easier to remember those files.
And then also like trauma. I think when trauma happens, unless it's so traumatic that you've blocked it out, but like I've talked about when in elementary school, when the like kickball wall fell.
Yep.
I remember that so clearly, and I think that's also your brain's way of like filing that to protect you in the future, right?
Yeah.
So interesting.
I mean, my classic and one of most fond memories of my mother, and I'm sure in the thousands of hours we've done this thing, I've mentioned this before, I can remember being at the pool, Shaw Park, if you remember that place.
Oh, yes.
In the kiddie pool as a little tyke, and some kids taking my toy boat.
You were tiny.
And my mom going and getting it and giving it back to me. I mean, I can vividly remember that. And that's sweet, sort of.
That's so
But
sweet.
I think it was probably because also I didn't have the best relationship with water in general. So I think I was probably a little uneasy because of water. And then kids took my thing and mom
How
got
old
it
do you
back.
think you were? You must have been like 3.
Yeah, 3 or 4 probably.
So you didn't have a good relationship with water even before your
Accident?
The incident?
The incident, I was very young.
Will you tell the incident?
Yeah, when I was very little, was on a canoe trip, and we were in the canoe, and something went awry, some rapids or something. And anyways, our canoe kind of like tipped over and got stuck under a log or something.
Oh.
And so I was underneath the canoe, and so my dad did what he had to do. He grabbed me, pulled me out and under. And it kind of ruined water for me for a
How
long,
old were
long
you?
time. I don't know. I should ask my dad this, probably, but I would guess in that between 3 and 5. And what was crazy?
Wow.
What was crazy? Just to give you a little bit of an insight into my water trauma. And I hope I don't have some waterworks start right now. That place, we had a weekend, we called it the farm, that we would go to. And main things to do at the farm was there was a river right by it that we would go hang out at, or we would go canoeing. And I'm telling you, in any given spring, summer, we would do at least like 10 canoe trips. Like,
wow.
We did a lot of them.
Wow.
And I fucking hated it for so long.
Yeah.
I eventually kind of came around to it. And then as I started getting like a little older, that was like the era when like the Super Soaker water guns came out. And it was like, oh, we had Super Soaker guns and you're shooting guns at the other friends on the canoes. And like it became more fun and I became a little more comfortable with water. But
you always had a life jacket on.
Yeah. But there was, I mean, years where it was like,
and you would
I
still
had to
do
go
it.
do those.
This is something I'm curious about. Just the change in parenting. Because I feel like we are so like yesterday, you're going to take the kids out on a walk, you know, and one of our kids is down and the other one is not. Okay, you don't have to come, which is fine.
Sure.
I mean, it's just a walk. But I feel like our parents didn't give us choices. Like, it's like you're doing this thing. And in your case, clearly you hated to do it time and time again.
Yeah.
And yet you're still doing it. And like, I guess the question is, did you doing it time and time again as an adult now looking back on it? Are you glad that it wasn't like an option, that you did come around to it eventually? Or do you wish that, you know?
I don't think I have a real answer for that because there's part of me that I haven't thought about that in years that I just remember like, oh, it was crazy. I'm right now reliving that feeling of like, fuck, we're doing a canoe trip again. Like, and the anxiety of it and like, you know, getting shuttled, going in some other random van to get shuttled up. Like, I don't know.
It did kind of imprint on you though. 'Cause like a couple of years ago, you went on a kayak trip with your buddies in Utah. Like you do things like that.
That was a canoe trip. So oddly enough, I have all that history with the canoeing. Then in college, me and some buddies went and floated the Green River, which was a trip that I did in high school at the school I went to. But then I did it in college with some friends and it was so much fun. Like, and then I did it again, just me and my buddy Farseth. And we did it one year, just the two of us in this huge ass canyon in Utah. The first day we got on the water, it started snowing.
What?
And that was pretty scary and like crazy. So I've had some weird canoeing trips, but it ended up being an amazing trip.
I feel like for someone who hates water or isn't that comfortable with water and hated canoe trips, you've done way more than the average person. Like, you've continued to, even when it was a choice. I have done I don't think any canoe trips where you're like camping ever.
Yeah.
I used to do float trips in St. Louis, which I think is a regional way of saying
that's a canoe trip too, if you go on a float trip.
You tie a bunch of inner tubes together and put a cooler of beer in between you and just float down a river.
To me,
and get sunburned.
I would say, really, if someone in St. Louis says we're going on a float trip, they mean a canoe trip, honestly.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
For me, float trip very much implies inner tubes. So I don't know. That's the difference. Sound off. Well, going back to the parenting of it all.
Yeah.
Like, I question this sometimes. And sometimes I think as adults, and also I think with your ADHD, this comes into play a bit, but we get decision fatigue.
Oh, sure.
And like sometimes I get decision fatigue, even like you'll come and ask me something because I think you're kind of punting the decision fatigue. And I'm like, totally. And so I think that I fear that sometimes we punt to our kids. Like, what do you want for dinner? What do you blah, blah, blah. When I'm looking back and I'm like, that was not the way things worked. It was just like, here's what we're doing. You're doing this. And I think about like dance. Okay. When I was a kid, I was heavily involved in dance, and it was a lot of dance. But it was kind of the norm for kids. Kendall, my best friend, was a superstar swimmer, and she was up at 4 a.m. and swam for 2 hours before school and swam for 2 hours after school. I danced for like 3 hours, 4 nights a week. And of course, there were times when I didn't want to do it, but it wasn't, the option wasn't there. And there was like some freedom in that. It's just what we do. And I do think it taught me like a sense of discipline, of which I've completely fucking lost as an adult.
I hear what you're saying, but I think, are you saying with like the dance though, it was kind of like, all right, girls, you're doing dance. Like, didn't you express a desire to do it? Or was it
I just wanted to be like my sister. She danced, and so I danced, and then yes, I loved it.
It wasn't like a decision that you had no part of the genesis of it.
The genesis, no, but the ongoingness of it, yes. And I remember like in high school, I mean, I still have anxiety dreams about telling my dance teacher that I was kind of moving on to cheerleading, and her being so disappointed in that. But so when like
before cheerleading was like respected as a sport.
But we were athletes and we competed and we won.
And
we cheered.
Aren't I sort of speaking some truth there, that like since that time it has blossomed into much more of a recognized crazy awesome sport, right?
Yes. I think totally. I think my dance teacher thought of it as like, oh, you're in your cutesy outfit, you know.
Yeah. Getting back to how we're navigating that, I think we have a pretty good balance, because there's a part of me that wants our kids to actually be responsible for some of those decisions and have the weight of them on that, right? Like, I think we're kind of in the middle ground, but I hear what you're saying, that like...
Now, there was something that you have talked about that you opted out of as a kid, which is pretty big.
What is that?
Hebrew school.
Oh, sure.
Tell me more about that.
So I went to Sunday school from ages probably 4 or 5 to like 7 or 8.
And it's Jewish Sunday school.
Jewish Sunday school. And I went for so long that it was like the synagogue moved to a new place, or maybe we changed synagogues. I feel like I can remember 3 different spots it was at. So it was,
wow.
I went for a few years, and it'd be interesting for me to ask my parents like what me getting out of it looked like, if they sat me down and were like, hey, do you want to keep on doing this or what? But I like really didn't like it at all. And eventually I didn't have to go anymore.
And I would be so curious what their conversations were about having you bar mitzvahed.
Well, that wasn't an option because my father had a really bad experience getting on his bar mitzvah. And so there was never any pressure on my brother or me.
What was his bad experience?
I think some of it was, and you should ask him about this sometimes because he'll happily tell you. But in my mind, a lot of it had to do with, number one, just the lead up to doing a bar mitzvah. It's a lot of work.
You have to learn the Haftorah.
It's a lot of memorization.
Yeah.
So I think there's that aspect of it. Then there was, I think for my dad, I remember him saying something like he was really uncomfortable on the day. Like, I think it was like really hot and he was in a crazy suit and like he had to do this whole thing. And then I think after the whole thing, then some relative was like, do it again. And my dad was like, what are you talking about? And then I think had to do the whole thing again just to almost be like being shown off. But he was already miserable. And then someone was like, you've been miserable for the last hour. Do that again for us or something. But not that this all sounds that horrendous.
Not like a horrible. It just wasn't not pleasant experience.
And I'm sure there's something more to it. But he does really look back on it like that was a crap day. Like this was not a good memory. So that was never thrust upon us. And then my brother was so much older than me. By the time, I don't even know how long he went through Hebrew school, but he never got bar mitzvah. So he had kind of hit the eject button and then
so it set the stage for you.
Yeah.
Got it.
And then around that similar time is when my mom started converting to Catholicism. So I I was tagging along with her on that journey, actually. So in some ways,
Wow.
I ended the Jewish journey and then jumped on the Catholic journey for a little bit.
But you didn't go on a Catholic journey.
I just went to church every Sunday.
Oh, okay.
For a good 2 years. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of fun.
But you didn't go through all the Catholic stuff.
No, I was an imposter. Yeah. Yeah, totally.
You didn't get communion or anything?
No, I always sat, and...
Well, yeah, I should hope so.
I think some people go get it without permission, don't you?
No.
It's kind of awkward to sit there. That was the only part I didn't like.
Yeah.
It made me very anxious.
Yes.
Hey, I was thinking, related to anxiety real quick, I wanted to ask you, I had an experience at Sprouts recently.
Yes.
Where I went to the meat counter to get a couple steaks. And that's not something that I would say I'm super comfortable doing. Like, I will have a little anxiety about my interaction with the meat department guy. Like, of things that happen at the grocery store, I'm like, now I got to do this. Or like when I'm getting like deli stuff, right? Mm-hmm. It's no big deal, right? I'm guessing a lot of people don't have any anxiety about that, but not my favorite thing to do. I'm in line and there's someone ahead of me.
Yeah.
And this guy goes on a journey with the meat guy where I was like, oh, I've got nothing to worry about.
Oh.
This guy's asking every question. The guy's pulling stuff out, and then the guy's changing his mind over and over. Then finally, the guy picks something that like makes it up to the scale up top. And it goes on the scale. And I'm like, he's going to fucking change his mind again. Like, I knew it. And he's like, you know what? And he did change his mind again.
And did the meat guy seem annoyed?
Well, this was my takeaway. The meat guy, I'm sure, was a little annoyed, but he didn't really give a shit.
That's his job.
And also, it made me realize this happens
All
the time. And my anxiety probably stems to, am I going to change my mind? Do you know what I mean? Where then I just had this like sweet relief of like,
yeah.
that the guy in front of me gave me this gift of
God
like,
bless that indecisive
piece of shit. I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm like, why do I worry about that? And I know there's people listening to this that probably relate to me at the meat counter. But then I know there's people like you that's like, no, that's just another thing you're checking off your grocery thing. Like, you could give two shits about having to go to the meat department, right?
Yes and no. I mean, as you're saying that, I'm really curious about this, and I want to tread lightly because I don't want anything to seem judgmental, but like, I'm curious if your ADHD diagnosis has put a new lens on some of this stuff where you're like, is that part of that? This anxiety that you feel about some of these interactions? Like, what is this anxiety?
I don't think so. I think it's just, I don't think they're related.
I have weird anxiety about like random things like that. I mean, I've gone so far as to like, if I'm at a store and I did this there's this like, I don't even know if it's still there, but in Silver Lake, there's this very fancy place that sells lotion and shit like that. And I assume like, oh, I'm going to go buy some really nice lotion that I love. That orange lotion that we got for the kids when they were little. Remember that they loved?
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, it smells so good. I love this. And it was kind of a splurge, but I'm going to buy it. But I had no fucking idea. And maybe this speaks...
No idea what?
That I got to the register and she rang it up and it was like $80 for...
Whoa.
And we were in no position to be spending $80 on lotion. What do?
What'd you do?
I like double down. I'm like, oh, and how much is the...
And you got more stuff?
I might have gotten one more little thing like, oh, well, and throw that lip gloss in or whatever. Where I'm like, why the fuck wasn't I just like, oh, you know what?
But okay, you know what's so interesting about this, and it's really clicking for me.
Mm-hmm.
Your anxiety though is reactive.
Yeah.
You don't have the anxiety beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have the anxiety of like, fuck, I got to go to the meat thing. fuck, I've got to go to this new restaurant and figure out how the system works at the counter, and like, do they bring it to me or are they going to call my name? You don't have anxiety until the thing happens.
Yes.
That's nice.
Yeah. Like, yes, that's true. I think a perfect example is like, I might have a little anxiety going to a new workout class or like going to check out a new gym or something. That's like your worst nightmare.
I mean, I've really never really ever done it.
And it's probably only because you have anxiety about how it's going to work, what it's going to be like.
Totally.
Okay, wait. Going back to confrontations, I guess, with you and the steak counter.
Yeah.
We never talked about, I just realized this the last time we were up here, where you and Teddy went snowboarding.
Yeah.
And Otis and I went to the snow play area.
Holy shit.
And first of all, let me just say, you know, we're up in the mountains. This is at like a little ski resort place.
I'm getting so giddy about this. Keep going with your story.
Well, just about like how lately my fear of conflict has left the building. I'm getting into a conflict comfy era.
Whoa, you're coming along with me finally? I feel like you have been fighting against me entering this era a little bit, or it's made you slightly uncomfortable, but now you're getting on board.
Well, here's where I'm going to say the difference is you want to get into conflict with all of our neighbors to find out this note mystery. For any new listeners, there is a car note mystery that has been ongoing in our lives, and Andy is determined to get to the bottom of it, to the degree that you're even willing to carry the note around with you.
I'm willing to do whatever it takes. But it's not just a neighbor thing. I'm talking about in all parts of my life. Can
I say something about Car Note Gate? It actually has done a wonderful thing for us. Because of Car Notes, you reached out to our neighbor, Virgil.
Oh, God.
In a way, I mean, you were going to come at him with the note. And I said, please, God, please do not do that. You will seem psychotic.
Sure.
But you have opened a portal. Now, every time I see him, we wave.
I know, but I'm still not sure if he knows where we live. He says
Elizabeth. No,
he does.
He knows. Because he called me a different name once, and I was like, oh, I'm Elizabeth. I live over there. And
what
he was
did
like,
he call me the other day?
Dennis.
Dennis.
Which I was like, that is...
I could be an okay Dennis.
I think you could be a Dennis. Now, I no shade to Dennises out there.
None.
I love the name Dennis.
Yeah.
It's a great name, and it seems of like, I think it's faded a little bit in the vernacular. I can't think like Dennis Quaid. I don't know any Dennises beyond kind of that era.
Sure.
But I kind of love you being a Dennis.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. But what I will say is Notegate, I think, has brought us and Virgil closer together, which is a huge win.
Sure.
Okay. Now, in my conflict comfy era, and actually, I'm surprised I didn't go off more.
Well, tell the story.
I will. I am kind of proud of myself because I think I'm entering conflict comfy, but because I'm giving myself permission to engage in conflict, I'm not coming at it with all of this like chaos.
Okay.
It's very calculated and chill.
You're a conflict sniper.
I'm a conflict sniper.
Okay.
So Otis and I buy our ridiculously overpriced tickets to the snowplay area.
Yeah.
So I was already grumpy about that. I was like, this is what we're getting for this? Mm-hmm. And basically all it is there's like a mound of snow where you can kind of try to make a snowman if you want, but it's not good snowman snow.
Yeah.
And then...
It could be on another day, just the day you were there.
Yeah. And then there's a long, very long hill that you can sled down, but it's like it's a low grade long hill. It's not like you're flying down the way we used to sled.
Right.
But it seems very fun. Yeah. But Otis is like, I don't want to do it. He was scared to do it, nervous. And I was like, let's just do one. You can sit with me and I'll like pumped the brakes the whole time, basically.
Yeah.
So we're carrying our sled up this. It's truly like a 10-minute walk up this hill.
Yeah. I'd say like 100 yards usually up a hill walk.
Trudging up.
Yeah.
I'd say more than 100.
Yeah, 150.
Probably 200.
Let's go for it.
And we're passing this family where they're also reluctantly taking their kid is reluctant to go up, but it's a mom and dad, and they're like, "Come on, it'll be fun." And she's probably 4 or 5.
Okay.
And they're trudging up, and the kid is starting to kind of have a meltdown, and we kind of pass them.
Yeah.
And we're carrying on, and not to be judgmental, but that's what I'm here to do, I guess.
Please.
I was being a little bit judgmental of their parenting, like the way they were handling this tantrum. I was like, "Ugh, you people."
What were they doing that you would have done differently?
They were like, she was like, "Carry me." I don't know. They seemed like they were giving in too much. I kind of was like, either call it and say we're not doing it, or
right,
like, no, we're doing this and you're walking or whatever. It was. Yeah. I saw the whole picture of their lives. Now, my mom was a single child, and she's one of my all-time favorite humans.
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee this is their only kid. They're home. They're walking on eggshells around this 5-year-old. Like,
okay.
They're scared of her, basically.
Got it.
So I got all of that from basically overhearing 4 words. Then we keep trudging up. And I say this knowing, by the way, anyone who overheard us, I'm sure, could have all sorts of criticisms of how we deal with things. Otis and I are going. I'm proud of Otis because it turns out it is a long ass walk up. We're huffing and puffing. He didn't want to do this, but he's doing it. And he stops and is like, "Oh, I'm so tired. Can we just go on here?" I was like, "No, we got to keep going, buddy, but you can take a little break." So he drops to his knees, and we're in the snow. We have our snow pants on. He's just hanging out for a second. And I see, and so I'm walking, I turn around and I'm now walking backwards up the hill, just kind of watching him chill for a second.
So you were like, you can have a break, but I'm going to walk backwards up the hill?
Yeah.
Interesting move.
Because I was like, then he'll just come catch up with me. I didn't want us to stop because then it would give him an opportunity to be like, let's just go back down. I just wanted to, like, the train has left the station, we're going. I then see this kid who's no longer tantruming. She's calm, complaining. She's whining, walking up. Run from behind up. Run at Otis. And I'm so confused. And at first I was like, oh, wow, she's changed her mind and she wants to get up there. Go, girl.
Yeah.
She comes up and just whacks him in the back of the head.
That little shit.
Like the little shit she is. And we're all stunned. This is so not fair. We're all stunned. The parents seem not stunned at all.
Well, that's because this must happen all the time.
The mom was like, no, whatever her name is, but it wasn't good enough.
Yeah. You need a little bit, if your kid just out of nowhere sucker punches somebody.
Yeah, it was the equivalent of a sucker punch. Now she's 5, he's 7. Like, if the ages were reversed, this would be a whole different picture.
Okay.
But he was so generous of spirit and was like, he was in shock, honestly.
Yeah.
He was like, oh, like, ow, she just hit me. And it seemed like a hard hit also.
Yeah.
It was not. And I was like, okay, and I was waiting for the parents to be like, step in, whatever. And I also didn't want to step in because I didn't trust it. So in terms of conflict sniper, I was like, I'm not about to, deal with this 5-year-old. Like the parents should be dealing with the 5-year-old. Yeah. So I just like get Otis and I'm like, are you okay? And I kind of made a show of being like, are you okay? Because that's what the kid should be doing.
Yeah, I would have been like, are you okay? And then subtly with my leg, push the little kid down the snow.
No. So Otis and I keep going. We get to the top. Like, to Otis's credit, he didn't want to do this to begin with. It was a much longer, more annoying walk up. He got fucking sucker punched on the way.
He still made it. Shout out.
He still gets on the sled and we're about to go. And he's got a little anxiety about like how fast it's going to go and stuff like that.
Yeah.
As we're up there, I see the people approaching. And this was a judgment call. I could have just taken off then. Mm-hmm. But to what you were saying earlier about your mom with the boat, mm-hmm. I, in my mind, was like, did I not advocate for Otis enough here? Mm-hmm. Should I have said something to the parents? Mm-hmm. Like, excuse me,
Yeah.
I don't know. There's so many factors at play too. I'm like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
But I see them approaching with the kid and I'm like, I'm going to fucking wait.
Okay.
And I'm waiting,
What are you waiting for?
them to get there.
Okay.
So I can kind of look at them, which is what I did. And I will say that the dad was like, I'm out. The dad went off to the trees, basically. Okay. The mom's approaching with the kid and she wants in every bone of her body, she wants us to go.
Right. So she doesn't have to deal with you guys.
So she doesn't have to deal with it. But I'm looking straight at her and at the kid, waiting for what didn't happen earlier. And she finally says, I'm so sorry about that. And I was like,
the mom?
Yes.
Okay.
Otis, God love him, says, that's okay. Oh. And I said, yeah, it just really took us by surprise. And then I'm looking at the kid and back up to the mom like, are you going to?
Yeah.
This is a learning opportunity here. Yeah. And she turns to the kid. She goes, remember, it's 2 words, which also felt like. And so the kid said, I'm sorry. And Otis said, that's okay. Thank you. I just was like, God love you. And I was like, I made a big deal of being like, that is so nice that you said, I'm sorry. That's really nice. And all was well.
Yeah.
But
Oof.
Anyway, it was just, and so then we went off down the hill. What was crazy about this is that days later, we come to find out that you and Teddy had seen us sledding.
Multiple times, yeah.
And we were like, what? And because while we were in the snow play area, I was like looking out for you guys. And I mean, it was a busy day on the mountain and
you would have no way of finding us.
We would have no way. And you're like, yeah, I actually got video of you sledding. And damn it, if Andy didn't videotape that entire encounter.
Yeah.
Not the hit.
Not the hit.
But the moment at the top.
Boy, I wish I would have gotten the whole story.
Where you see me looking up at that mom waiting. I mean, it's all blurry and stuff because it's from far away.
I mean,
but you can see it very clearly.
We're 1,000 feet away from you guys, but I'm like, I think, because there's not many people in the snow area. It's not like the ski mountain part. So there's just a few people, and it's like, wait, there's Elizabeth and Otis. And then we're like, it is them. And then we're waiting for you to get to the top. And then we're like, oh, and I'm waiting. And then you are at the top forever. and now we knew why. But yeah, I have video of it. And we see video of the little girl coming over to say, I'm sorry, right?
What are the odds?
It's pretty crazy.
So crazy. I couldn't believe it. I was freaking out when I realized that.
I mean, I'm so proud of how our kid handled the situation.
Me too.
I would say now, having distance from it, and I'm wondering, you lived it, if you are more now like, I'm like, this must just be a problem with that kid. They're going through a phase. Like, that's probably why the reaction wasn't as big as it needs to be.
Yeah.
Because it's happening all the time.
Here's the thing. I know I'm calling this kid a little shit.
Me too, for the record.
She is one.
Yeah.
But all kids are little shits at some point. Our one of our kids was like bit a few times. Granted, it was us, but still, that's a hard phase to be in. They were much younger, but it's hard. It's hard to go through different phases with your kids, and we're all just humans trying to figure it out. And I don't fault the kid. I truly, and I don't know what the parent's story is, but I will say the way they handled it, I don't have a lot of, I feel badly for the kid, honestly. For it to take that much for the mom to elicit, and I'm sorry from the kid when she ran full speed out of her way to thwomp a little kid on the mountain.
It's absurd. And
to not then have her check to see if he's okay, to not, and maybe it's sensory overload or something. And I have so much compassion for kids who are neurodiverse, and there are a lot of ways for me to find compassion here, but it's like, then take her away from the mountain.
And or if these things are happening more because of something like that, you would think the parents would know how to interact with the other people involved better too.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It just goes to show, even like the incident where you walking to school, lady, car, uncomfortable incident about how she was at the stop sign driving that you had. It's so surprising how some people react. If our kid went and sucker punched someone, we would immediately intervene and guide them to an apology quickly.
And not just an apology. I want to say that because clearly the girl had been told there are 2 words you need to say to make this okay. And even that took coaxing.
Yeah.
To check and see if the other person is okay is the most important thing.
Are you okay?
It's way more of that's way more of a teaching opportunity than just saying, okay, if you say these 2 words, it changes everything.
Yeah, totally.
And that's what we do teach our kids. Like if you lose control of your body, which everyone does sometimes, you make sure that the other person is okay after what you've done. And then you apologize, and then you say, I won't do that again.
Yeah.
But whatever. People react differently. By the way, going back to the mom at school. So this was the mom who rolled slowly through the stop sign at us. I don't know if you've noticed, but all of the school things going home lately have been like, please be conscientious driving around the school.
No.
There's a paragraph. Now, there have been 2 horrible tragedies at school crosswalks near schools in LA recently.
Oh, jeez.
And I won't even go into all the details. You can Google them, but it's a huge problem. And it makes, when I think about that of it makes my blood boil so much more.
Yeah.
That story between her and me is not over yet.
Great. I'm glad I like this new era.
Conflict sniper. I love it.
Well done. All right, great.
It's us against the world. I'm just kidding. Listen.
We just changed this show to like the Grudge show or something.
The Grudge. We should have a podcast called The Grudge, and we can have guests on, and they just air grievances.
Just petty bullshit.
Petty. I also want to say that I recognize no, that's not true. I mean, everyone has their issues. I'm like, if these are our problems, we have a lot to be grateful for. We're sitting on it right now. But those are legit problems. Your kid getting hit on his way up to the sledding hill, and
yeah, we should be allowed to vent about that.
Can we real fast, just speaking of sledding, and then we'll wrap this up?
Yeah.
When I think back, going back to like your canoe incident and stuff like that.
Yeah.
When I think back to what we would do sledding wise.
Oh yeah.
And, I do think I'm a little bit I think we err too much on the side of like being freaked out that our kids are going to get hurt at every turn, obviously. But what I used to do as a child, so there was this hill on our lane that was straight up and down and not that long.
Yeah.
So you just flew down this hill across a road.
Yeah. You have a spotter or anything for that road?
No spotter.
You need to have a spotter.
I mean, the kids at the top were kind of spotters, like looking down, but I mean, anything can happen. Then we'd cross the road. Then there was we're crossing a road at this like bridge. So under the bridge is a creek.
Whoa,
and so we would basically then luge down this turn into the creek. That was our sledding spot.
And wait, you wouldn't end up in the water though, because that'd be
It
miserable.
would be ice. And then you just skate on the ice for as long as you can until you crash. But the road of it and like going down this luge where there's like this brick bridge all around. I mean, it is a miracle that we survived all of this.
Yeah.
How about your sledding?
I can just remember I had one real bad wreck in St. Louis at Shaw Park, which was a popular sledding spot, where I hit a tree once, and that really startle you. So, but I love sledding, but it's dangerous as hell.
Yeah. And snowboarding?
Snowboarding, I love snowboarding. Obviously, I've taken many bad falls over the years. I'm glad 70% of people have helmets on the mountains now. You know, when I started, that was not a thing at all. I didn't have one all of high school. No one I knew had a helmet. Like, that just wasn't a thing.
Wow.
The only people that had helmets were like the fast skiers that did like super
Olympic.
G.
Yeah.
But yeah, and now I'm an old man, so I take it really easy. But yeah, you got to watch out for everybody else.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's no joke.
No joke, but fun.
I can't wait to come back from snowboarding and lay down on this couch, have an old fashioned, and watch a movie.
Dream of dreams.
Oh,
Okay, well, on that note, let's
sign off.
sign off. Everyone, if you want to support us on Patreon, it's patreon.com/nobody's listening right. You have 100 more spots to score that sweet, sweet MP3. Also, there's going to be a Mario Kart tourney in the next 2 weeks. We're very excited about. And of course, our monthly bonus episode coming at you.
Nice.
Usually mid-month. And I think that's it.
All right.
Good night.
Good night.
Nobody's listening, right?